Ineos problem at Manchester United Football Club. What is the Ineos problem, I hear you ask? Well, that's what we're going to delve into because it's one that I think everyone speculates. What is the Ineos problem, or what is the problem with Ineos right now? Because we've had quite the impression that certain things were meant to be happening over this international break off the back of bad results with the club in the Premier League, but also in Europe. Um, and a lot of people speculating, oh, this is what's going to happen. On this day, they've had two meetings, supposedly, both Monday and Tuesday. They held meetings regarding the manager's future, and the media was all riding the story right the way into the bank, and a lot of people were quite convinced, myself included. I felt like an obvious decision needed to be made, and it's one that we shouldn't really teeter around with. I think it's absolutely high time to absolutely commit to a big decision, and the big decision is that sacking the manager is what has to happen in order to see the club actually stand much of a chance at progression, away from a sort of clueless nature that it seems to have at the moment. And I've got to be honest, I mean, the manager is sort of at a point now where people will say, well, if you give him time, look at what he's done the past 2 years. You won two trophies, uh, and not really been backed properly until this summer just gone. So, but is it something that's worth giving the benefit of the doubt over? For me, this this decision doesn't really stem from just solely results, right? It doesn't, because otherwise I would sit there and say, given to the end of the season, irrespective of what happens, in case he wins another trophy. Because look at the last two seasons, he won trophies in each of the seasons. So, that side, the um, half glass full side of the jurisdiction, right, is that you give him that benefit of the doubt. You say you've got the season, all things considered. But the point to where I draw the line here, that I dot the I's and cross the T's in my verdict on this situation, is this idea that a manager that has almost had this illusion to want change, to want certain things to happen so that he can really, enact the full scale of his ideas, right? To fully implement his plans, his vision, and execute it with great efficiency. That's what he was begging for. Give him some time, be patient. It's a process. You've got to switch things around, get the right players in. But something tells me that despite having a summer where he's had essentially players that do make a difference to his style of play, that are improvements versus the players that he's had here systematically, maybe not individual technicality, but as far as systematically, players that would suit the idea of how he wants to play a lot more. However, the almost complete neglect of the urgency that was very, very present. I mean, he was on the verge of being sacked in the summer, and I said, well, either way, I was in the camp where it's like, if they sack him, I'm not bothered. But if they keep him, I'm not bothered. But there's certain things that we have to see, and those certain things we haven't seen. So we are essentially in a position right now where what we have is a manager that's been backed in this summer transfer window and has been given the keys. Now do your magic. And he said, that's the thing. I'm not going to do it. But why? Now, it is a baffler. It is a baffler because it's like we know that there is something going on there. There's something else going on there. Whether he's mentally checked out of the job entirely and he was just sort of hoping, well, maybe I'm hoping that I just sort of get cut, cut loose um, before I go, before things get too deep here, because it doesn't really make any sense as to why he would view things in a very certain way and then say that the reason for XYZ is something else entirely. For example, signing a pivotal player that Ten Hag has raved about in the summer transfer window when the discussion has been about him. But then he's like, well, we won't play him yet. We got to really bed him in, give him the time to adjust and everything. And I'm thinking, we've seen players that have come from certain leagues, backgrounds, teams in the Premier League start playing instantly. I mean, take Mazraoui, for example. Came from Bayern, Bundesliga right back. I know that he's a former Ten Hag player, but straight away into the team. Matthias de Ligt, that was another situation where, was benched for Harry Maguire until Maguire cocked things up at the back and then was dropped, and de Ligt was the obvious choice to come in, and saw that the dynamic of the back line had improved. Um, so for us, big issue was what was going on in midfield. What was the matter with the midfield? Players in there that I think some of us, most of us, if not all of us, wanted sold in the summer, still playing or starting players that don't complement a balanced midfield at all. Kobbie Mainoo's being left exposed every single week with Christian Eriksen next to him, who's a number 10 player who hasn't got the legs to cover both offensive and defensive work. So it would make all the sense in the world to actually limit how many responsibilities on the pitch that he has. And then there's Casemiro there as well. I mean, people would say, well, yeah, Casemiro's fallen off a little bit. He has. He has fallen off a little bit. So it would make a lot of sense. Well, Mason Mount as well, but he's injured indefinitely, just constantly in and out of the injury room. So God only knows what the plan for him is. For me, I would have had him sold last summer. Chelsea have completely ripped us off. Completely ripped us off. And I knew that they'd done that the second we signed him. So, just is what it is. I know these things. You can just see it from a mile away. Just keep your eyes peeled. You spot fraudulent activity from a mile away. So, ideologically, Manuel Ugarte being available, fully fit, and having an international break, by the way, to play some minutes and have match fitness ready and available. This guy can't really buy a start at the moment and has gone a week or two now as an unused sub. Unused substitution. Begs the question, doesn't it? Why sign a player for the money you have from the club you have and not use him? Why would you do that? It does two things. One, the player comes in, doesn't really get to start strong or build, from the get go, like build confidence, match fitness. You know, uh, you, the second nature is he doesn't learn this squad, he doesn't learn this team from the get go. He's in and out, shake it all about, and sat there essentially wondering, well, I'd like to get to know my teammates better, but I can't do that outside of training so much because I'm not really being given minutes or opportunities here. So the integration, Ten Hag tells the media, we're being patient, we're slowly integrating him. And the player's probably thinking, I'm not a player that you need to slowly integrate. I'm just not. I'm the player that you back from the get go and trust me to go out there to do a job. You know, he's 23 years of age here. 23 years of age with first team experience in other European clubs. Logically, you would say, okay, then off you go then. Starting 11, prove to us, show us what you got. And we've not seen viable opportunities. I mean, it's like he had the abysmal game against Tottenham, but then everybody did. But then he was one of the only few players that was dropped, right? So Tottenham, shocking result happens against Tottenham. We have a midweek game. Guess what? Most of those players dropped. Play against Aston Villa, still most of those players dropped. It's a madness. It's genuinely a madness. Like the old school trustees, the trustees are playing week in, week out now. He's defaulted. The players he signed, all of them benched. But I don't really think he understands why or knows why he's doing that. We're seeing Ruud Van Nistelrooy starting to look like he's taking more managerial responsibility on the touchline than Ten Hag himself, which is is creating a dilemma for spectators looking from the outside in, looking from outside looking in. It creates this image, this idea. Oh, maybe things aren't so sweet in the Ten Hag, Ruud Van Nistelrooy, and Rene Heck camp. Maybe there is a power struggle there. Maybe there's complications. The breakdown of communication or the idea of sharing ideas. Like whose plan is it? Whose ideas is it that's making it onto the football pitch? Now, I think that definitely there has been some changes from the play style, which is a bit ironic because people's biggest criticisms are that styles. What style? There's no play style, and it is a bit spontaneous and random. It's quite randomly generated, like pick a name generator. Bjorgsen, just out of thin air. Here's your recommended name. Here is your recommended play style today. It's worlds apart, contradictory, and there's no consistency to it. And we see it from media posting stories with the leaks again, talking about players are not happy with the situation. They're confused about the rotation management of the team. They don't understand why from 1 week they will play, then the next week they're just on the back burner again, and it's like, but there's no real transparency from the manager, it would seem like. So the manager's not really explaining it. And of course, rotation is necessary this season, given that it's quite a hectic schedule. And if you want to avoid injury crisis, I think squad management does need to be taken into big consideration. But I do understand where rotations that have happened, or the rotations that have happened, don't make any sense. It doesn't, like the teams that he puts out there don't fit the play style of the opponent, don't play the individuals that are best suited for certain roles against specific opposition, and the players don't really understand what they're meant to be doing. They don't know their roles, and they've also supposedly allegedly said, well, we don't have team synergy. We don't have we don't really have that connection. We don't have a chemistry with our teammates here. Because one week we're expecting, we play with certain teammates. The next week we're expecting a very, very similar idea, but it changes so dramatically. So from week to week, it doesn't add up, and it does beg the question for the manager that is out of ideas, out of inspiration, but a stubborn character trait that prevents him from making the wholesale changes necessary to progress the team. It does make you wonder, what are Ineos waiting for? And some people will say, well, Gareth Southgate, of course, obviously. Well, Southgate himself apparently can neither confirm nor deny. Apparently, Southgate's not really interested in a Manchester United project. He's not interested, and neither are Ineos. So it doesn't matter how many times, and I can tell you this for free, the British media bias will continue, absolutely will continue to link people like Southgate to the Man United job until the cows come home. It's just they're backing their boy, their golden child. Literally, that is it. The child in the family setup that can do no wrong. The toxic family dynamic. It's literally, you know, it's like golden toilet paper, it would seem. The golden arsehole. You go for a shit, you curl it out, you wipe once with the toilet paper, and it's absolutely squeaky clean. And you're like, miracle. So, but yeah, trust me, guys will know how satisfying that is, though, to be fair. So, give me a like if you guys agree with that. But the idea, right, that Ineos look at the situation and they say, yeah, we're going to have meetings, right? And the thing is the media have said, oh, this was discussed, and that was discussed, and that was discussed. I don't think there is relatively trustworthy enough sources out there that actually know definitively what was discussed in those meetings. I think the obvious, that I think everyone sort of unanimously knows, that Ten Hag was discussed. And then, of course, in reference to that, would lead on to things such as who the replacement manager perhaps would be, some ideas of skirting around the subject. I think that it is relative that this is what would happen. But there's discussions talking about um, that I think people are writing that Ten Hag is going to be in charge for the Brentford game solely because there's been no club statement or like any official word from the horse's mouth that stated, yeah, we're supporting the manager in this situation. So if we're going to keep going with this project, and he's got X amount of games to turn it around. We haven't even had any communication like that. It's literally been radio silence from Ineos, which the fact is that people will say, well, the silence is deafening as to what the decision is. See, I don't really know, because I think Ten Hag, being away, wouldn't have necessarily got direct lines of communication until he comes back. And if they were to go about making a sacking decision, as we've all alluded to, Ruud van Nistelrooy would essentially act as interim manager. Now, the thing about sacking a manager and appointing the interim from the assistant manager's position, essentially there is no waiting time. They start work on the day you make the decision, so they might still, as ridiculous as it sounds, they might still make that decision, perhaps just waiting for Ten Hag to come off holiday. So, I mean, I don't know, to be honest. I don't really know. Um, but perhaps you guys can share, um, could share your verdicts on the situation. But yeah, as far as the TLDR of this video goes, the Ineos problem at United is that there's a lot of indecision, and I think that's perhaps the makeup of the Ineos era thus far. Maybe there is some indecision, and as we all know, indecision means that you are essentially sat idly like a sitting duck, or like a fish in a barrel that's about to be shot at. It's very, very frustrating to have to sit on the sidelines and know the obvious that has to happen, but watch them make a easy decision be made into a hard decision. And I think there's people that will already be Ineos out because of this, but I still think that keep the options open, because they might have the understanding that they know what has to happen, and that maybe Ten Hag coming off of his holiday, he will probably have the meeting where he gets dismissed. We already know that the payoff is not an issue. They will pull the trigger if and when is necessary. As to when the time is, though, we have to wait and see. Just a couple of other things we can touch on as well. Whilst we're here and at it, the players withdrawing from international duty, injuries and sickness, I think most of that is just players that are getting out of international duty because they don't. Yeah, it's trying to preserve stuff for club football. One injury that's caught my attention, though, is I think it was Musa Mazraoui's injury, or diagnosis, cardiac something. Yeah, so it's a minor heart procedure, supposedly, taken off at half time, because it didn't look like this was done apparently during the Villa game. It didn't look like there was any issues with him from a fitness perspective, but he's out for a few weeks. Apparently, saying that this heart condition is a relatively common condition, and is something to do with palpitations. And I think he's. Oh, here we go. He has previously suffered heart issues. A month after testing positive for COVID during the 2022 World Cup, he was diagnosed with a mild inflammation of the pericardium and a membrane surrounding the heart. So he's got some heart condition that he's having to essentially monitor. So I think, give or take, they'll probably be putting him through some tests just to check, just to monitor how does the heart perform with certain exercises, tests, and medical procedures, and basically go from there. Which it does make you wonder, though. It does make you wonder. I think a lot of people are saying that we are just cursed, and if there's anybody that you can blame for any curses at Manchester United, there's one person, there's one name I can give you, and that's Paul Pogba, right? And no, I'm not saying that because I'm giving you my inner Graham Souness. I'm saying that because the guy literally preached voodoo. He literally preached voodoo. There are players that have played, like what was it, Eddie Bayor? Apparently had family members that preached voodoo on him, that cursed him. He says that they cursed him in his downfall of his career, which is when he spiraled and ended up at Spurs and didn't really do anything else in his career after that. So yeah, I think the Pogba family was a little bit strange, just a little bit strange. With all of this voodooing going on. So, well, maybe he's judged the club. Maybe he's judged the club. Maybe it's just like, well, man, fuck Man United. We'll put some voodoo on it. So, I don't know. I don't know. You guys, tell me what you think. Do you think we're voodoo cursed by Pogba or somebody else out there? Um, maybe I've got this all wrong. Maybe it's just Trey United on Twitter, because anything he says, the opposite happens, literally. And he's got a very, very successful record of saying something and the polar opposite happening. Man celebrated that we're going to have a strong defense very soon. What happens? Someone else is now out. Someone else in the defense is now out injured with a heart condition. So if you hear this, guys, or the people that need to hear this, FBI guys, police, whoever, do one of two things: permanently ban United Trey or Trey United off of Twitter, so he can never spout a public opinion ever again, because that means the bad hoodooism um, is now no longer applicable. Or alternatively, arrest him, put him in a box somewhere, and just leave him on a shelf, you know, or leave him in a tray. United tray in a tray. Keep him away from telling people what his feelings and predictions for Manchester United are, because he's honestly burying the club with the superstition that's undeniable. He's burying us alive, I swear to God. But maybe you guys agree, maybe you guys disagree. Maybe there's another Twitter user that's responsible for all of this. Put some suggestions down in the comments, and we'll see what you make of it. But other than that, guys, I'm gonna call it a day there. And yeah, it's an interesting situation. Of course, a quick one as well. A rest in peace to George Baldock, who passed away this week. Just aged 31, former Sheffield United fullback, and yeah, tragic. So condolences to his family and friends, of course, and prayers to them pushing on. Life goes on. Don't get hooked up on the past, and focus on the future. Focus on what can happen, um, and focus on the positives, as we all should, as we all should. But thanks for watching, guys. The Sunday Night Takeaway show will be back this weekend. God only knows when my fans Fiesta show's happening, because I literally do not know whether it's rescheduling for, I think it's Thursday on the 17th. I think it's Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. I do not know if that show's going to happen, because I get there anticipating the show's soon to start, and then I find out that it's not happening, or it's being pushed back another week. So God only knows. God only knows. But thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all of that good stuff. And yes, we will speak to you again very soon. Until then, take care. Drink your Coke and your Pepsi and your Dr. Pepper. And also don't forget your supplement of chocolate milk. I don't know what accent that was, but take it with a pinch of salt. Until then, people, take care.